Okay, we are on. Today is May the 7th, 2014, and Minnesota's finally getting a little spring weather, and it sounds like it could get really almost out of hand, right? I got Patrick Hammer and Dr. Tom Novak here with us. Is that right, guys? Are you looking for some big weather?
Well,
Well,
yeah,
instead
I
of,
mean, I think it's about time, right, Patrick?
hey, Tom, a week ago today it was snowing. So I think we're due, right?
I think we are, and not only here in Minnesota, but I think people even south of us in Iowa and portions of the Central Plains have been waiting for this warm air to surge north into the Central Plains and Upper Midwest. And it looks like we're getting that. So that's going to, of course, set the stage for what I think is not only going to be a bumpy next 24 to 48 hours, but Patrick, I just get this feeling that this might be the trend here throughout May and into June. So we'll see.
Yeah, the pattern looks active next week too. My goodness. This cold, wet spring is about to flip, I think, in terms of the modes of weather we're going to get. From that sloppy, driven rain and snow last week to now a couple rounds of severe weather here in southern and central Minnesota.
Right. And speaking of the severe weather, gentlemen, of course, we need to set it up. And we're going to set it up right now. What you should be seeing on your screen is a graphic of the temperatures. Can you guys all see that right now?
We did.
Well, it goes between you and the map.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share this temperature map here. And what I want to point out, and let me know if you guys can't see it, but what I wanted to point out is take a look at these temperatures over Iowa right now. They are in the mid to upper 80s, and there are actually some 90s. In fact, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit here into southwest Iowa. And look at this. Oh, look at that, Patrick. I just see that pop up right there, 100 degrees, right near Nebraska City and Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska.
And
Wow.
Tom, you may want to mention, not only is it terribly hot, it's very humid. So this is not a desert air mass. This is a hot tropical almost air mass that's about ready to enter Minnesota.
That's right. And if you look down here in this extreme southern part of the state, Albert Lee, temperatures are approaching 80 degrees down there. Those of you in Rochester, temperature is going to be going up probably about 5 to 10 degrees here within the next hour. And temps in the Rochester area will probably reach to near 80 yet this afternoon. That means that there's a warm front, an obvious warm front that is set up near the I-90 corridor in southern Minnesota. And look at what's happening well north of that warm front in what we call an elevated layer that is quite unstable well north in central Minnesota. There are thunderstorms. There was a report, Patrick, of baseball-sized hail just west of Alexandria in, I believe it was Alberta or Chicopee?
Yeah, it's Stearns County, baseball-sized hail. And I got to tell you, Tom, elevated storms mean that they're not based in near the surface where tornadic storms usually develop. These are elevated, and to get baseball-sized hail that tells you that these storms are frisky and they need to be watched, because that is very impressive.
Right. Agreed, Patrick. And I think what everybody's worried about, and reading some of the National Weather Service discussions, is that as we get closer to the evening hours here and then overnight hours, that these storms may start to develop further south near and closer to this warm front that's over southern Minnesota. And if that happens, they could become rooted in the boundary layer, which means basically surface-based thunderstorms. And then that could not only, of course, produce hail, maybe even some strong winds, but that then could produce some sort of a tornadic type of an environment in and near the Twin Cities and areas just south of the Twin Cities.
That's tonight's threat, which to me is a after sunset threat here in the metro, but certainly possibly 8, 9, 10 o'clock tonight here in the Twin Cities.
Right, and here's what I love about this, Patrick. Not only do you see the radar echoes, of course, but now we got this infrared satellite loop going here over the upper Midwest, and you can clearly see the cloud tops exploding and becoming colder over central Minnesota right now. That's indicative of strengthening thunderstorms, and what we're likely going to experience, at least later tonight, is a redevelopment of storms just south of where this main batch of storms are developing over central Minnesota. So if we start to see some cooling cloud tops over southern Minnesota this evening and overnight, then we better watch out, not only in the Twin Cities, but maybe even in Rochester and Mankato, and then into northwestern Wisconsin. This is a beautiful looking infrared satellite image over central Minnesota.
You look at the surface observations, not to totally geek out here, but there is a nice line of convergence. If you can see the wind directions converging, notice what's going on just south of Montevideo, and look at to the north and west of there. Maybe even a little outflow coming from those storms, interacting with the warm front that's bulging into southwestern Minnesota. I think that's where storms begin to fire as early as sunset.
Right, I agree with you, and I'm going to zoom in. I'm looking at the NAM computer model run right now. This is the run from just hot off the press from 18Z, Patrick, and what we're showing right now is the 850 millibar chart, which is a good indicator of where the low-level flow, at least warm air, is flowing up from the south into southern Minnesota. And this is the map for right around 10 o'clock this evening. And the reason why I show this is because look at this fetch of strong southerly winds with warm air right into southern Minnesota, which of course would be a good indicator of where perhaps that not only surface-based warm front is located, but where the elevated warm front may be located this evening. Likely spot for thunderstorm development.
Show real quick either 900 millibar or surface winds, and you'll see that they're out of the southeast. So you've got southerly winds at 5,000 feet, southeasterly to easterly winds at the surface. You're beginning to see the winds obviously change direction with height, and you're going to get spin.
Right, and that's what we see right here. This is the surface chart for 10 o'clock this evening. As Patrick was mentioning, here's the Twin Cities, of course. You can see easterly and southeasterly winds over southern Minnesota, but look at what happens just as you cross the border of southern Minnesota, northern Iowa. Winds become south, and they actually become pretty strong this evening and overnight tonight, and that's where you're getting that twisting action in the atmosphere, which would be a fantastic indicator of not only shear but helicity in the atmosphere, which leads to storms that become quite organized overnight tonight. Patrick, one thing I'm really worried about is the training of thunderstorms over probably a narrow band over southern or central Minnesota, which could create some very heavy rains.
Right. You know, the people may be walking outside right now and it just doesn't feel like thunderstorm weather. It's not terribly warm. It's not terribly humid. But boy, warm fronts are the nastiest aspects of surface maps this time of the year.
Especially at night also, right? Aren't they really bad at night?
What's that?
Aren't they especially active at night?
Because at night you get something called the low-level jet, which is more of a nocturnal feature.
Okay.
And run into a warm front and then just get things blowing up very quickly.
Right, and we're probably, gentlemen, going to see that jet kick in. In fact, I'm just going to quickly look at the 850 millibar chart again, Patrick. This shows you low-level winds in the atmosphere. This is this afternoon. You can see at least some low-level winds coming up into southern Minnesota, but not much. But let's just see what happens as we head into the evening hours. Right there, this is what's I think a concern for everybody is look at these low-level winds developing over Kansas, Missouri, and southern Iowa. They start feeding into southern Minnesota overnight tonight, which could, of course, create that thunderstorm activity with some training thunderstorms. But now we haven't even talked about this yet, but watch what happens as we head into tomorrow.
Oh, that's a discussion. Tomorrow looks like the main course, if this is kind of a little appetizer for tonight. Tomorrow looks very interesting.
Right, and this is the low-level jet for tomorrow evening, right around 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. And look at this, Bill and Patrick. These are screaming winds. This is of huge concern for everybody who predicts severe weather. screaming winds out of the south coming into southern Minnesota, right up into the Twin Cities metro. And then if we go and look at the 500 millibar winds at the same time tomorrow evening, look at that. They're turning at a little bit more of a south-southwesterly direction, and they're still fairly strong over southern Minnesota tomorrow evening. And then let's go even further up in the atmosphere and look at 250 millibars. These are the jet stream winds tomorrow evening. And look at that. Strong winds again out of the southwest. In other words, we're going to have fantastic shear in the atmosphere tomorrow evening from turning directions. So you get winds from the south-southeast at low levels, and then you get winds out of the southwest and the upper levels, and they're all strong, which means that the potential for tornadic activity appears to be increasing as we head into Thursday evening. So it should be an active day tomorrow.
Tom, question for you is timing of tomorrow's storms. I think tonight's storms possibly linger into the overnight, and then they're done, they're gone. And recovery of the atmosphere, meaning will the atmosphere have time to heat up, recharge? And I think that's a no-brainer. My concern is if these storms hit between, let's say, 2 and 6 p.m., that means some of these storms may be forming right overhead, which is when they're at their most tornadic state. When they
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I don't think there's any doubt that there's going to be thunderstorm activity tomorrow afternoon in east central Minnesota, eastern Minnesota, and western Wisconsin. They're going to be quick movers, though, tomorrow. So they could be in and out within an hour or two as they develop. And I think that southern Minnesota may be the exact point where these storms develop. Reason why I think that is because if you look at the upper level winds, at the jet stream winds at 1 p.m., which is what you see right now, we are going to be on the nose, which is a great spot to be if you like severe weather. We're going to be on the nose of what we call a jet streak, which is over western Iowa and in Nebraska tomorrow afternoon. This is at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Now, here's the only red flag that I see, Patrick, by the way, is that as we go through the afternoon and early evening, look at this, how this jet streak punches into southern Minnesota. We may get a quick shot of storms in the early afternoon or mid-afternoon, and then by evening, these storms may shift off east and north into northwestern Wisconsin and northeastern Minnesota, which, in other words, we could get dry slotted by evening, and that could turn all the severe weather activity off by tomorrow evening. But
right
in between that noon hour and, let's say, 7 p.m. tomorrow, it could be, in fact, I'm pretty confident that it's going to be rather active near or close to the Twin Cities, and that's something we need to watch out for.
I think the early afternoon storms would be, if you're a fan of severe weather, they may be more of a, oh, well, that was it. If we can stay sunny for a bit longer, then the severe potential increases here in the Twin Cities. But one of the things that I noticed, Tom and Bill, is that something we call a triple point, where an occluded warm and cold front all meet just east of a surface low, will be right over the Twin Cities. And to me, it looks like right around 6, 7 p.m. So this is certainly, and where that triple point happens is where you get the most spin and the best chance of rotating updrafts. And I think the Twin Cities could be potentially right in the bullseye if it doesn't cloud up in the afternoon and then they're gone.
Right, that's correct, Patrick. We are likely going to need some sunshine, at least to get the atmosphere churned up and energized. By the way, this is the NAM high-res computer model. This is hot off the press. This is showing you, this is the 18 Zulu NAM high-res model. This is showing you future radar, at least what it thinks is going to happen with the thunderstorms as we head into tomorrow. And what it shows you, here's Minnesota, here's the Twin Cities. It looks like some thunderstorm activity perhaps tomorrow morning. Well, watch what happens during the afternoon. Here's 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Look at this. Nothing over southeastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. So that may be our opportunity to get some of that sunshine and to get that atmosphere energized. And then watch what happens as we go to 4 o'clock p.m. right there. Now, granted, it looks like these storms may be scattered. Strong thunderstorms, severe storms that develop between about 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon over eastern Minnesota. And then more thunderstorm activity, and this is a bit surprising to me, but
The cold front.
yeah, that's the actual front, the actual cold front then that it looks will get energized tomorrow evening. This is at 7 tomorrow evening, and then finally by about 10 o'clock at midnight, everything shuts off. So I think if you put everything together, Patrick and Bill, somewhere between the hours of, I think, 1 p.m. and 9 p.m. is when we're going to get at least the highest potential for severe activity here in the Twin Cities and southern and eastern Minnesota. It's not a lock, because severe weather is never a lock, but my gut feeling is that the Storm Prediction Center is going to come out with a moderate risk.
No doubt. No doubt.
Midwest tomorrow.
I have a hunch that it will be focused over far eastern Minnesota and Wisconsin will be the moderate risk area. So that's, by the way. Hi. And recall other scenarios like this, Tom and Bill, where you can get 2 rounds of storms, where you can have a late morning, early afternoon, really, or like lunchtime event, followed by a second one, which is what that NAM just kind of showed. I remember in 2006 it was, New Prague got huge hail like at 11:30 in the morning. And then the big show happened that night. It's all of a timing thing. And as you can see, Tom and Bill, the different runs are showing that surface low getting close to the Twin Cities at about a 3 to 6 hour difference in timing. So we're going to learn more in the next 12 hours.
Yeah. Right. Timing's everything.
I have a question for you guys, somewhat weather related. If it does turn out that there's baseball-sized hail, and say in St. Paul, and Joe Mauer is around, if he walks outside, he's still liable to just get a single, right?
Yeah, with bases loaded, he may even draw a walk instead of trying to. Still,
guys, I tell you what, don't pick on the dude. All right. He's a 300 hitter. Give him a break, right?
Yeah, that's all he does, though. Nice guy. He's good for the team, good for the singles, but no power. No power. Yeah. He needs to harness the power of Mother Nature somehow, and he needs to get that helicity and all that good stuff in his swing and really, whatever.
I'm sorry I brought up helicity. Even just the word is confusing. I have to agree with that. So
what does it mean exactly, Tom?
Twist. It's twist in the atmosphere, and that's what you need. You need like a low pressure or even a high pressure. They like to spin, right? Air likes to spin and go into a low pressure or away from a high pressure, right? And helicity just takes advantage of that spin. And for storms to rotate, which is what you need to have storms not only be energized but to be long-lived, to get supercells, you need twist, not only at the lowest levels of the atmosphere, but also up top. And I think we may be in a situation not only tonight, so don't forget, tonight could be dangerous too.
Yeah.
But into tomorrow, we could get that twist, and that's.
So Chubby Checker could have said, "Let's do the felicity."
Funny. You see, look at you. I love these non-weather guys, Patrick. They always have to make fun of our words.
This is entertainment as well. We got to mix it up, right? That's my role. I don't know much about the weather. Anyway, go on.
One other thing that we look for, though, Bill, is not only the twist, and this is also important, is we look for shear, which is increasing winds, increasing mile per hour with the winds, the speed as you go up in the atmosphere. If you can get strong winds at the low levels, but then even stronger winds up top, that's also what we're looking for, and we may have that tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting day and a half, and it's about time. I think we're certainly not hoping for damage or scared kids, because I know my kids already seem to suffer from a phobia of severe weather, a phobia for nighttime thunderstorms. We know they're going to jump into our bed tonight. It's inevitable. But this is Minnesota, This is, if you recall, hey, Bill and Tom, that we're almost on the 50th anniversary of the biggest metro outbreak ever back in 1965. It happened this time of the year.
Yep.
Yeah, this is classic. We're getting into classic severe weather time now for southern Minnesota.
And the Twins made the World Series that year too, didn't they? I think that was the Twins. So that, if it's a repeat, hopefully that comes with it. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Hey, guys, we need to watch the radar tonight. Don't forget about tonight. So just be paying attention tonight, and then really be paying attention to that radar afternoon tomorrow. And of course, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. I know Patrick and I and Minnesota Forecaster will be throwing out some tweets and some Facebook posts here over the next 24 hours.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You guys need to set up a webcam in your yards. It'd be kind of fun to watch it all live.
Someday, we'll get to that point.
It's we're nowhere near storms yet. It just doesn't feel it. But I just saw an observation out of southern Minnesota. I think we just cracked 80 in a few spots. So that warm air is coming.
That's right. All right, guys.
All right, gentlemen.
See you later.
Thanks. That was fun.
Yep. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.